when we were kind of sitting down, kind of wrestling with our core values, there were some that I looked at them like, oh, we get that one okay, we do that one okay. And then there were others, and I was like, well, you know what? We say we're committed to that, but I think we need to repent because we're lying, because it just didn't seem to match. And I was like, we can work on that one. And when it came to discipleship, it was kind of one of those things where I think every church and every pastor that I've talked to anyway, we always feel like we don't do discipleship well. And so I was like, why is that? And I think part of the reason is because what we do when it comes to discipleship is I think we misunderstand what God intended in discipleship. And so my hope today is to share with you, when it comes to discipleship, what I feel God has placed on our heart to do as far as discipleship is concerned. And I think that that's part of the problem is we begin to, in churches, compare, well, this their discipleship program, and that's what discipleship looks like. But the problem is that's not us. Right? So we can look at a mega church that's got all these big budgets and all these big things. Oh, but that's not us. We're a small town. We're a small community. We do things differently. People are different here than in the big city. And so what does discipleship look like? And I believe that that's the first step in doing discipleship and becoming disciples, is to understand what it means. And so we're going to be putting this on our website once we're done with all this, but it says this is our view on discipleship. Discipleship is not a program. It's a journey of helping people grow in their relationship with Jesus. At Refuge, we believe discipleship happens best through intentional relationships. We walk alongside one another through life's challenges and victories, helping each other follow Jesus more faithfully. As we carry each other's burdens, we reflect the heart of Jesus and fulfill his command to love one another. And our verse is 2 Timothy 2:2. The things that you have heard from me among many witnesses, commit these things to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. So we need to pass on our information. And that was what Paul told Timothy. And as I was sitting down and I was trying to figure this out, one of the things that kind of hit me was, we have this ability to use the term Christian as an identifier. We say things like, well, I'm a Christian, or that's a Christian church, or that's Christian music, or they became Christian. Now, there's nothing wrong with that per se. It's a biblical concept, but here's kind of what I struggle with. When we use the term Christian for anything other than people, it becomes a marketing ploy. I used to have a shirt, and I wish I still had it. I'm going to try to find it, and if I can't find it, I'm going to make it. It said, "They will know we are Christians by our t-shirt." I bought it. Why? Because it had a ring to it, right? But I also remember, I don't know if you get this, I'm going to date myself, but you remember way back in the late 80s, early 90s, the Lord's Gym shirt, where there was a cross on Jesus' back, and he was doing, I had that one. I look back at some of the shirts I had, and I wonder why. Now I just stick to plain colors. It's easier that way. And everybody tries to sell me their shirt, and I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm not going to do that. So using the term Christian as an identifier, that's not a bad thing. Like I said, it's biblical. But here's what fascinates me, is when you look at this, you will see that the word Christian appears only 3 times in the New Testament. But disciples appears hundreds of times throughout the Gospels and Acts. In Acts 11:26, it tells us this. It says, "And the disciples were first called Christians in Antioch." My point is this. They weren't Christians trying to become disciples. That they were disciples who became known as Christians. That's what God intends. He intends for us to be disciples, followers of Christ. And so I want to ask you a question, and I don't want it to seem judgmental or anything, but ask yourself this: have you reduced Christianity to this? I attend church on Sunday. I believe the right things, and I listen to some good sermons. Man, we sing some great Christian worship songs. Then we go home and we repeat it next Sunday. Have we become those people that we got this routine? And I think about when Jesus called Peter and Andrew, notice what he didn't say to them. He didn't say to them, believe some things about me. Let me tell you some facts. Let me tell you how I'm the Messiah or how I'm the Son of God. Here's the facts. No, what did he say? He said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And I think that statement gives us the framework of which discipleship and biblical discipleship is and what it should look like. What do we have? We have the first phrase, follow me. It's an invitation. Jesus says, follow me. Then what does he say? I will make you. What is that? That's formation. That's transformation. That's going to impact your life. And then he says, I will make you fishers of men. And that's the mission. That's what we're to do. You see, disciples, they follow Jesus, they become like Jesus, and they help others to follow Jesus. That's the goal. And so today what we're going to look at is what we mean when we say that we are committed to discipleship. And my goal is to define what we're committed to, how we're committed to walking with people, because that's really what discipleship is, and that's what we're going to see. And so the first thing we're going to look at in Matthew 4:19 is that we're committed to follow Jesus with you. Discipleship can't really be done alone. It needs other people. And so we're committing ourselves to you to walk with you and follow Jesus with you. It says, then he said to them, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. We already touched on that verse and how it gives us the framework for discipleship. And again, before discipleship became a class people attended, it was a person that somebody followed. It was Jesus. Jesus walked into the lives of ordinary people and he said to them, follow me. He went to fishermen, he went to tax collectors, he went to ordinary people. And that invitation changed everything. Peter left his nets. Matthew left his tax booth. Others left their occupation. That some of them walked away from security. It impacted their reputation and their way of life. It made a difference. Because discipleship isn't just agreeing with Jesus. Discipleship takes place when we reorganize our life around Jesus. So what does it mean? What does follow me mean? In the ancient world, students learned from teachers, but discipleship went beyond sitting in a classroom. When we look at Jesus' disciples, what we see is this. It says, we see that they traveled with them. He ate with them. They watched him interact with people. They listened to him teach. They watched him respond to criticism. They saw him touch the leper, welcome children, interact with people. They saw how he treated women and outsiders, how he was different in that. They listened to him as he prayed for people. They watched him as he served others. They watched him as he forgave. And ultimately, they watched him die. Jesus didn't just teach them what to believe. No, he showed them how to live. He showed them how to live. And I believe that one of the dangers in the church today is that we confuse church attendance with discipleship. Yes, attendance matters, community matters, worship matters, Bible teaching matters. All those things are important. But the truth is this: you can attend church every Sunday and still not be a follower of Jesus Monday through Sunday or through Saturday. You could know all the worship songs that are out there and still not be following Jesus. You could take sermon notes all day long and not follow Jesus and not have him form your life into his image. You could know theology and not follow Jesus. Jesus isn't asking us to learn information. That's not why he called us to be disciples. He's inviting us to follow him. And here's what I know. There's a cost to following Jesus. Matthew 16:24, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. If anybody is to tell you that, discipleship's going to be easy, it's just get this book and fill it out, they're giving you the wrong information. I really struggle with pre-marriage counseling books. I've never found one that I liked. And so I've just decided, if you ever see me, I made it up. I made my own, one that I like. Because there's always missing something in those books. You see, you can't learn life lessons just by simply reading a book. You can get good ideas. But we learn, what we say this is, things are caught, not taught. And I think the greatest things I have ever learned were the things I learned by watching someone, by being close to someone. And so, no, Jesus never said discipleship is convenient. You see, following Jesus means there will eventually be moments when what you want and what I want conflict with what Jesus wants. And we have to come to this place where we surrender to Jesus. Discipleship is deciding Jesus gets the final word. He gets the final word when it comes to money, relationships, identity, ambitions, schedules. Ready for this one? Grudges. Politics, plans, and future. You see, when we are a disciple, what we're saying is, my entire life, Jesus, I am giving to you and surrendering to your lordship. So the question isn't, do I attend church? It needs to be this: are you following Jesus? Because Jesus never said, come admire me. He said, follow me. And so at Refuge, what we are committing is to follow Jesus with you through the hard times, the good times. It's not all tough. I mean, there's some great times out there. But we're committed to following Jesus with people. The second thing that we are committed to is we're committed to becoming like Jesus. Luke 6:44. Jesus said, a disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone who is perfectly trained will be like his teacher. This gives us the goal of discipleship. It's not knowing more about Jesus, but it's becoming more like Jesus in every aspect of our life. You see, Jesus didn't just inform his disciples. No, he formed them. But what we need to understand is this: formation takes time, and everybody is formed at a different rate. Just look at Peter. I love Peter. He's my boy. I believe that we are just brothers from another mother, from definitely different. If I did a me 23, I'm pretty sure Peter's going to be in my genealogy. That's pretty much all I know. I mean, here it is. Peter followed Jesus. He walked on water, then he sank. He confessed Jesus as the Messiah, and then a few verses later, Jesus called him Satan. Okay. Jesus rebuked him, but yet Peter promised never to abandon Jesus, and then he denies knowing him 3 times. This dude was all over the map, right? I asked myself this: if Peter filled out a ministry application, would I hire him? No, I think what I would do is I would kind of put it aside and tell them, we'll contact you. You know, crazy everywhere. But yet, what did Jesus do? He didn't give up. He kept walking. Because discipleship is a process. Discipleship isn't someone who has arrived at a destination or finished a book or went through a class and completed it. Those things can be good. I'm not saying that those things are bad, but they're just a tool. It's like building a house. You have different tools for different parts of the job. And any dude knows this one. We all have that one tool, that ratchet hammer. It was meant for a nut, but yet it could drive in a nail. Anybody ever tried to nail in a screw because you didn't have a screwdriver? Been there, done that. Anybody got one of those little crescent hammers? Yeah, the crescent wrench is the multi-tool that does everything. We even went so far to do what? Create a multi-tool. And it still doesn't have everything you need. Right? We have to have the right tool for the right job. We have different tools to help us get the job done. Classes, books, all those things are part of that, but they're not the end all. No, we walk with people. We don't give up on them. It's a process. We acknowledge that. We don't arrive at it. But a disciple is someone who keeps following Jesus and keeps allowing Jesus to change them. And one of the things that I'm learning is this. The more I walk with Jesus and I walk with other people, and I let people speak into my life, and I find this, that it changes how I see failure. Because one of the things that I found is that many people are very zealous. If I was to, and I almost put a sign-up sheet on the back and said, anybody who wants to be a disciple, sign up. But I knew what would happen. Everybody would be so excited, and they would sign up, and then we would have our first discipleship meeting, and we'd get together, and things would be great. Everybody would be excited, and we'd maybe go 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden, bang, you're hit with your first failure. And then you throw in the towel. You give up. Thinking, man, I messed up. I should have known better. I've been following Jesus for too long to struggle like this. Yeah, conviction's important to understand that sin is serious, matters. But look at disciples. How many times did they misunderstand Jesus? And they wanted to give up. But Jesus never gave up on them. I mean, these guys, they argued, they doubted, they were jealous. They fell asleep when they were praying. Anybody ever done that one? Anybody ever felt guilty on that? Why? Here's what I found. If you're stressed, you're not falling asleep. So if as you're praying, God gives you this peace and you fall asleep, thank Him. But if you've been lazy and irresponsible and you've been up all too late, maybe guys saying, hey, go to bed early. Right? These things are important. They ran away, yet Jesus continued forming them. You see, their failures weren't the end of their discipleship. And one of the things that I'm learning is this. Failures oftentimes become the classroom where Jesus teaches the deepest lessons. And discipleship happens in relationships. It happens when we're together. You see, Jesus didn't disciple the 12 by giving them a podcast to listen to. Or, here's a book to read. No, He walked with them. He shared His life with them. Discipleship should never be reduced to information transferring between a book in your head. No, it has to be information that's transferred life on life. 1 Thessalonians 2:8 says, we were well pleased to impart to you not only the gospel of God, but also our own lives. That's what Paul says. Not just the gospel, but our lives. And see, discipleship is when someone knows when you're struggling, they know when you're celebrating, they can challenge you, they can encourage you, and they can tell you that what you're doing maybe doesn't look like Jesus at the moment. And you trust them enough to listen to them. But what identifies a disciple then? John 13:35 says this, "By this, all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Love is what makes the difference. Jesus doesn't say they will know you are my disciples because you can win a theological argument or because your Bible has 17 different colors of highlighters in it or you can speak Greek. Okay, those aren't bad things, but that's not what's going to define you as a disciple. Jesus says they will know you're a disciple because you love one another. You see, that's transformation. That's formation. That's God creating us and molding us into his image. And the longer that we walk with Jesus, the way we treat people should increasingly look more like the way Jesus treats them. We should be more gracious. We should be more patient, forgiving, generous, compassionate, truthful, and loving. Not because I'm trying to look religious, but because Jesus is forming me to look more like him. Not, do I know more than I did 5 years ago? Or it's really, do I love more, forgive faster, serve more willingly, respond more graciously, and trust Jesus more deeply? The evidence of discipleship isn't simply what you know, it's who you're becoming like. And we are committed to become like Jesus. We're committed to walk with you, not give up on you, to be those people for you. And the third thing that we're going to see that we're committed to is to helping others follow Jesus. Matthew 28:19 and 20. After the resurrection, Jesus says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Amen." You see, Jesus makes disciples, then he tells his disciples to go and make disciples. The goal was never, come and follow me and keep everything to yourself that you've learned. No, eventually Jesus says, now go and help someone else follow me. Go be a part of somebody else's life. Go and teach what you've learned. Go and love like I love. He didn't say go and make church attenders or converts or people who agree with you. It's interesting. Look at Jesus' disciples. Do you think all of those guys agreed with each other? You have a tax collector and a zealot in the same room, in the same boat, literally at times. Those two didn't get along. They didn't see eye to eye on all things. You see, we don't have to see eye to eye to be a disciple. And I think sometimes God brings people with differing opinions into our lives to show us the areas that we need to surrender to him, to allow him to make us to be able to love more like he loved. He said, make disciples, people who follow Jesus, people who become like Jesus, and people who help others follow Jesus. You see, discipleship should be about multiplication. And Paul discipled Timothy, and then Paul tells Timothy this in 2 Timothy 2:2. The things which you have heard from me among many witnesses, commit these to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. What you've heard from me, pass on. Paul passed on to Timothy. Timothy passes on to faithful people. Faithful people pass on to other people. That's discipleship. It's a progression. One life pouring into another life that pours into another life. The goal of discipleship isn't creating church programs. It's about watching Jesus form lives. And I had to ask myself this question. What if Refuge really lived this out? What would it look like? What would it look like? I mean, imagine if everyone at Refuge asked this question: who am I following? Who am I becoming like? And who am I helping to follow Jesus? What if we became more than just, well, I attended on Sunday, but what if we all surrendered our life to Jesus and said, you know what? Is there somebody around me that's maybe younger in the faith that I need to reach out to? What if older couples walked with the younger couples? What if mature parents that have gone before these younger parents came alongside them and encouraged them? What if people who walked through grief walked beside people who were grieving? What if people who had recovered from failures walked beside somebody who thought their failure had disqualified them? What if people who knew Scripture had opened their Bibles with people who didn't? What if instead of saying somebody at church should help them, we started asking, Jesus, are you asking me to walk with them? Here's the truth. Discipleship is messy. Walking with people is inconvenient. I think if I've learned anything over the last 30 years is this: people don't have crises during office hours. Nobody ever asked me this question: would Tuesday at 10:15 work for my marriage to be in a wreck? Life happens at inconvenient times. Truth is this: people relapse, people disappoint us. People ask the same question over and over and over again. People seem to take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, and yet we fail to recognize that they still made a little bit of progress. People make decisions that you specifically have told them they shouldn't make. That's life. But know this: Jesus experienced all of that, and he kept walking with his disciples. One of the things I'm finding is discipleship is made possible because of the gospel. And when we see the gospel, like we talked about earlier, not as the doorway we walk through into salvation, but the pathway we journey on with people as God transforms and changes their lives, it makes all the difference in the world. It keeps us going because we recognize how much the gospel was there for me at my worst moment. You see, we don't become disciples by trying hard enough. We become disciples by following the one who first came looking for us. Isn't that the gospel? That while we were sinners, Christ died? Jesus pursued us. He calls us to follow him. He didn't just say, follow me. He went to the cross for us. Why? Because our sin had separated us from God, and our rebellion required judgment. And Jesus took our sin upon himself. He died, he was buried, and he rose again. And it's after he rose that he does what? He gives the same commandment he did to his disciples, and that was to follow me. Jesus is calling us all to be disciples. He's not calling us to fix ourselves, but to follow him. He's not calling us to get our life back together, but to follow him. Because when we follow Jesus, he begins to put the pieces together. He begins to bring people in our lives that can help us along the way. Part of the problem with life is oftentimes when we feel alone is when we get in that downward spiral. And we give up, but we're not alone. Jesus commands discipleship because Jesus wants people to walk with people, to love people, as he begins to put their life together. And as we follow Jesus together, what does he do? He changes us. So who are you following? Are you following Jesus? I mean, there's a progression throughout the New Testament. Jesus calls people, they follow him, they walk with him, they learn from him. And then you know what they do? They fail, then they're corrected by him, they are loved by him, and they become more like him. And then Jesus does what? Sends them out to help other people follow him. That's been the progression of discipleship for 2,000 years. Follow Jesus, become like Jesus, help someone else follow Jesus. That's the goal. And so maybe we need to stop asking, do I go to church? And start asking, am I a disciple? And if I am, who am I discipling? See, Jesus didn't call us to come to church. He called us to follow him. He didn't call us to make converts. He commanded us to make disciples. And so here at Refuge, we are committed to follow Jesus together. We're committed to helping others follow Jesus. And we recognize that discipleship isn't a program that we complete. It's a life that we're willing to live. And the invitation of Jesus still remains simple. He said, follow me. So we're committed to walking with you, meaning we will show up. You know where you can find us. We will be intentional. We will be vulnerable. Like I told you, I'm not a big pre-marriage counseling book type of guy. And years ago, we were asked to do pre-marriage counseling for one of the guys that helped out in the youth group and his future wife. And so we had him, Isaac was like 4 at the time, and we lived in this concrete house in Tuolumne. So we had him come to our house, and they showed up at our house, and Connie and I had the biggest knockdown, drag-out fight of our entire marriage in front of them. Like right in front of them. Like when I talk to this guy now, he's like, hey, you remember when you guys got in that fight? I'm like, yeah, I can't forget that one because you're always bringing it up. But you know what he told me? Later on, he said, thank you so much for being vulnerable and being real. He said, I've read many books on marriage, but I learned more from that one day than anything else. We're committed to being vulnerable. What does that mean? That means you're going to see us fail. And we're going to allow you to watch as Jesus picks us up, dusts us off, gives us a hug, and puts us back. We're going to follow Jesus with you. We're going to walk with you as you follow Jesus. How does that happen? This is why when we do things like the men's breakfast, the women's Bible study, these different small group activities that we do, that's why those are so important. That's when you begin to build those relationships, and they should be natural. There's people here that would love to walk with people that have different gifts than I have. But you got to be around people. After the first of the year, one of the things that I'm praying about is how to really do a Wednesday night kind of a, not just like a service, but a little different, where we have a service for about 30 minutes, but then we have tables, and each table has a table leader, and you have discussions around your table about what following Jesus would look like. And so when we announce that, I hope that that would be something that you could come to. When, things like the women's hike, people are like, well, it's just a hike. No, that's when relationships are built. I mean, if it's true that it takes a minimum of 7 minutes of conversation before you really get to become vulnerable and open with people, how much more to commit to a time of discipleship? We've got to build trust. We've got to be around each other. You think the food is just because I'm a fat Portuguese? That's part of it, but that's not all of it. When I look at what Jesus did, what did he do? He dined with people. There's something that happens when we eat together. That's why next week, for family service, I got the ice cream truck coming afterwards. Because who doesn't like ice cream? You're like, yes. But the idea is this, is we rub shoulders because we're committed to each other. We're committed to being with each other. But you have to be vulnerable. You have to be there. You have to be available. And it's because what we're saying is this. We believe that Jesus can form our lives to, at the end of the day, we look more like him. We love more like him. And we bring people to him so that he can form their lives. And so that's what we're committed to here at Refuge. So let's go and make disciples. Let's go open our lives to each other. Maybe you've been wanting to ask somebody, hey, would you spend time with me? Take that courage. Maybe you've been wanting to ask someone if you could spend time with them. Today's the day to do that. Just say, hey, let's get coffee. Begin that conversation. Begin to walk with people. Your hearts are going to be broken. You're going to hear things that hurt. But discipleship is when we rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. When we walk with people through those hardships, through those failures. When we share our lives, when we fail in front of them. And they get to see how Jesus picks us up and doesn't give up on us. And so, yes, Refuge, we're committed to discipleship, meaning we're committed to be with you and to walk with you because we're committed to loving you. And it's pretty easy. You guys are pretty lovable most of the time.